Good morning, wonderful Samuel Ward Academy colleagues, and welcome to this week's Caffeinated Professional Development. In the future, I'm going to try and do these as a live stream or a meeting on Teams, but a very, very persistent toddler who can only be distracted through a mixture of television and a jigsaw is currently preventing that process. So whilst my wonderful wife looks after him, and you may hear his cries of joy and or rage in the background, apologies for that. Today is going to be done remotely and then uploaded. So I wanted to talk to everyone about Teach More today and what this looks like in the new world. So what we're used to seeing in our sort of Teach More checklist is our very positive welcome for pupils as they come in. We greet them at the door. We avoid trying to do a personalised handshake with every single child because, we actually want to get some teaching done in the lesson. Again, that may look very different as well when we do finally come back to work. And they enter, they start the do now, they allocate the resources, we time the activities precisely, and we manage the transitions. They collect and tidy the resources. So really, in terms of lots of these, haven't they? A lot of these have gone out of the window straight away. There aren't pupils to allocate the resources. We can't greet them at the door. We can time activities for them with certain online tools, but a lot of them we can't, and we're not there to check the timing. We can provide helpful auditory or visual aids. Transitions, we don't know the situation of their transitions, or even ours. As I said, my transitions between slides may now be interrupted by a very small, very, very loud person. Similarly at home, how are they able to manage the transitions between the different activities? Not only within the same kind of work, but actually work across the day. What does that look like? And of course, they can't be dismissed promptly because they're not in school. So just thinking about what this could look like in the more virtual, the online school, having a look at this then. And so a couple of things here are the things that we've said we're definitely going to do. And then a couple of things here I want to suggest are things that would be really, really useful. So first of all, everyone should be setting regular work via Go for Schools, and irrespective of other online resources that you're using, we need to make sure that everything is on Go for Schools because that's our central delivery system for pupils and parents. It's the one they're most familiar with. So if you're using Educake or you're using Seneca or MathsWatch, that's fine, that's excellent, particularly if that's part of the regular way of working in the class. But it's essential that it's on Go for Schools, so that's the kind of common point. It's also important for quality assurance, and we need to look at kind of what typicality and support looks like in the new world as well. And again, approximately 50% of the weekly lesson curriculum in terms of the timing provided, including homework, I think is a good aim. We need to be realistic. We can't try and recreate the school day. Those of you who are parents will be finding that yourselves, that attempting to replicate the school day at home, I don't think is either possible or really a good idea. We're trying to create something new here, and that's what we have to work with. So I think it's really important to make sure that work is clear and achievable with impeccable instructions. The clarity of instruction, either verbally or written, becomes essential. I don't think we can now just set pieces of work where you might say, well, research this or have a look at that or do some reading around this. I think we need to provide our pupils with real clarity over what we want to try and build in their heads, the mental architecture of independent learners, because that's effectively what we're asking so many of them to be. We're asking them to go from very guided learners in their practice to pretty much autonomous with the support of their parents, which is, very challenging. We've said that we will provide at least 4 whole class feedback tutorials via YouTube. That will be from now until the end of the summer term. Again, if you want to provide more, that's great. And again, it would be helpful for pupils. But I think 2 per half term would give a really sort of substantial sense of what they're doing. And then each pupil will get 2 assessment pieces back. And the feedback on these needs to be more personalised. Again, just to give them a really clear idea of how they're doing. And obviously the assessments need to be connected to the work that's being done online and being set. The 2 can't be separate. They need to be joined together. Again, now more than ever, to create that greater sense of coherence. So whilst they're doing that and getting that sense of personalised assessment, it's really important to think about how they're doing. This is going to be very, very difficult. Now, as adults, we have more of the intellectual, emotional and social tools that enable us to deal with this extraordinary situation. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that anyone's finding it easy, of course not, but we are more capable of dealing with it than young people who are used to this structure and absolute rigour. So we need to think about how they contact us. Pupils will email us as well as do work via the normal channels. And I think it's really important to respond to pupil emails and engage with them and respond with clarity, empathy and honesty. So again, don't overpromise things. Don't set yourself goals in terms of, the amount that you'll give certain pupils feedback or how much you'll do, but just respond to them with honesty. And I think particularly year 11 and year 13 pupils who ask us questions about how things will be assessed and judged, we have to say we don't know, because at this point we don't know. The two things that have been made clear is that teachers will be asked to provide an estimated grade, and then, based on a variety of standardization measures, the exam boards will provide what they're calling a calculated grade. Now, how both of those things are being generated remains unclear and hasn't been told to schools yet. Certainly not at the time of this recording. If something's come out by 9 o'clock today, fantastic, but it hasn't. So you need to be honest. So don't speculate with pupils or don't kind of fuel their anxieties. Just shut down the conversation in as clear and as sensitive and sensible way as possible. It is absolutely best to be honest here and just say we don't know, because we don't. I think in terms of developing things, of teach more, and whereas I think these first 5 points are things that we need to do, the one here I think would be a really, really useful thing to do, which is a weekly review tutorial of the work that you've set. And again, think about the best ways that this could be done. Sometimes this might be through a YouTube tutorial. Sometimes it might be through a quiz on Teams. It might be by different kind of tasks on Seneca or Edmodo or Educake, all these kind of things. And I think the balance we need to get is demonstrating a mixture of understanding and rigour. I think in this first fortnightly phase since the full school closure, I think it's really important that we don't start to pursue work in not an antagonistic way, but in a kind of, why haven't you done this type tone? Because if we look at the new world, I think there's quite a lot of reasons why pupils may not have done it. Some won't have done it out of sheer laziness. Again, that's something we need to accept and be realistic about. But some won't have done it due to a variety of reasons so complex that many of us will not have access to our understanding of how that happens. So we do need to be understanding, but we also need to be rigorous. So I think the best way to do this is, throughout this process, be keeping a really good record on Go for Schools of the pupils submitting and not submitting work. I think then, really starting really from next week, I think then some, more gentle pressing of pupils can happen. Contacting them and families just to ask, okay, what can we do to help? I see at this moment you've not managed to submit any work. What can be done? How can we support? I think at this stage, this very much needs to be the tone. And then I think we go through these things in a really clear, tiered way, so that, when the subject teacher is trying to pull work in from a pupil or a family and it's not coming in, then think about how it can then be supported by the head of department, then how it can be supported by the line manager. I think it's important to keep these same tiers of leadership and follow up in place, but it's this balance of understanding and rigour which I think are helpful to consider. So just thinking again about the nature of weekly and monthly review, again, Rosenshine's excellent principles provide some information about this. And again, I think this has never been more important, because if we can provide weekly and monthly review for pupils that are helpful and really help them assess and gauge their learning and where they are, and then help us assess and gauge their learning, that's going to be incredibly useful when they come back to school. Because we think about these things that they're doing, well-connected and automatic knowledge, new problems, a rich, well-connected body of knowledge that's organised, larger and better connected patterns. So here's this great opportunity, isn't it? It's very much driven by educational science and learning. And I think weekly and monthly review, where we can be incredibly helpful. And again, plan collaboratively. planning collaboratively is good practice anyway. So rather than working in isolation on wonderful resources, share with your colleagues, work together online through WhatsApp groups, through communications, pick up the phone. All these kind of things are going to be helpful. It's really important, I think, at this time to work together just to maintain a kind of professional normality. Again, we have to be realistic. This isn't normal, but I think we can start to build a kind of sensible, you know, supportive new normal within the current structures. So what might this start to look like in terms of helping teach more? Perhaps to review the previous week's work that you've set every Monday and the previous month's work every fourth Monday. So again, you and the pupils get into a routine. And when we've lost the kind of stringent routine that schools provide, I think a structure like this would be helpful for you and the vast majority of pupils. Even if they're not appearing to engage, they may be surprising you with their engagement. I think the views on our YouTube videos demonstrates that a lot of pupils are engaging and pulling this in, as are families. That may not be as explicit as we'd like at this point, but I still think it's there. Then maybe some testing after this reviews. And this is an ideal use for Microsoft Teams. And all the classes should be in place by the start of the Easter holidays, which really gives us a great setup in terms of doing this work over summer. So an ideal use for Microsoft Teams where you can create quizzes and surveys. And that's what I'm going to work through with people on takeaway teaching on Monday. I'll also do takeaway teaching as a recording. But again, increasingly, we'll try and move this format to live streaming and something a bit more interactive because your viewpoints and ideas are the most helpful things. As ever, if you've got any good ideas around this topic, any suggestions or anything you're already doing that's helping to teach more in the new virtual school environment, please let me know. That would be incredibly helpful. Thank you for all the remarkable work you're already doing with the young people. And the most important thing is that you, your family, friends and loved ones are safe and well, looking after yourselves, and just keep on going because there's some really, really fabulous work going on, and I'm really proud of everyone. Okay, on that note, I'm back on jigsaw duty. Take care, everyone, and have a lovely day.